Hi everyone, welcome back to the Reddit drama channel with another Reddit cheating story. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and like the video if you enjoy it. Also, please click the notification bell so you won't miss when another cheating story goes live. These simple clicks mean a lot to our channel, and thank you for your support.
My girlfriend went to study carpentry, and when she came back she told me. So here's my story. Disclaimer that this was years ago and that the names have been changed. Many years ago, I was casually involved with a girl we'll call Melissa. We saw each other for a couple months and it was really casual. After a while, we just both stopped talking to each other, which was pretty fine with me, didn't really give it another thought. Fast forward about 4 years, I'm single and goofing around on Facebook when I get a friend request from Melissa. I remember having fun with her, so I accepted. We chat real briefly every so often and that was that. Turns out she had started dating another guy in the music scene and they had been together for 3 years. They moved to another city together so he could go to school. Anyway, she messages me one night and after a little while, she starts guiding the conversation to how much fun it was when we hung out. I was like, yeah, it was chill. Our conversations after that got more and more, I like you and my current relationship sucks and I'm going to break up with him. To which I was like, okay, well you let me know when that happens. Long story short, Melissa tells me she's broken up with her ex and moves back to my city. So we started hanging out. It's fine like any other new relationship, but there are little blips that make me a bit suspicious. Texts obviously not meant for me being accidentally sent to me, but to her recent ex-boyfriend. She was pretty dumb. A whole summer of weird drama with the ex transpires and long story short, she hadn't actually broken up with him. I wasn't pleased to learn this, but by then, I was really into her and was of the mindset that she was my girlfriend and if she wanted to be with me, she would have to clearly and definitely break it off with the other guy. She does. About 6 months later, I set out to buy a house and she went in on it with me. We have a happy relationship, her family loves me. We got a couple cats and a dog. Everything is pretty good for about a year and a half or so. Then she told me that her dad, who lived in a neighboring city, wanted to move to our city to be closer to his children. She asks if her dad can move in with us for a few months at most. I agree that a couple months is doable. He moves in and, despite promising to pull his weight and help out, ends up being a lazy piece of shit. The relationship declines to basically roommates that share a bed. No intimacy. The couple months of her dad living with us turns into a year and a half. During this time, Melissa decided she wanted to vastly change her career, from secretary to carpenter, and me being a supportive to a fault guy, supported this change. Part of this career transition requires a few months in a different city to do class work. This was fine as her cousin lived in this city, and she could stay there during the week, at home on weekends. I'm sure you all can see where this is going. Her texts and calls became less and less frequent and descended into one-word responses. There were days on end when she wouldn't respond back and all my calls went to voicemail. She claimed it was because she ran out of minutes. After her 3 months of school, she came back home. A couple days back, she broke up with me, citing that we had just grown apart. Honestly, I was relieved. Our relationship was garbage and I was really only sticking it out until the spring, it was October, because selling a house in the fall sucks. That night, we agreed to start the listing process while still living together. The next morning, she left her phone out while getting ready for work and a text came in from a babe, heart. I confronted her about it, because although I was happy we were broken up, I cared about the circumstances under which we broke up. She said that it was a guy from school and that nothing had happened yet. It turns out she had started seeing this guy, who was 15 years her senior, with 2 teenage children, right when her school started. They had a full-on relationship where they even dropped the big L word and so on. Whenever she was unavailable, she was with this guy. I was angry. Not so much that she had cheated, but because I was holding down the fort with her useless dad and supporting this career change while she was out philandering. Now remember, it was still autumn. Selling a house in autumn is crappy, and at this point, my focus was on getting the house sold and not losing my shirt. With the house selling becoming my priority, I set my sights on drawing things out as long as I could, so I told Melissa I didn't want to break up, that I understood that things were rough with us and that I understood why things happened how they did, that we should work things out. For the next 3.5 months, I managed to convince her that things were mending. She broke it off with the school romance guy, and her dad moved out. She started to come around. Not entirely, as she would still do sketchy things like get text messages and then disappear to the office for a bit, or get super angry if I even picked up her phone. I was certain there was another guy she was screwing around with, but I didn't care. In the middle of February, I told her we were done and that she was to move out. She immediately went to the basement and made a phone call. About a half hour later, some guy I've never seen before came to pick her up. Over the next few days, she moved her things out while I was at work. She did all sorts of petty SHT like smashing a bottle of my cologne, destroying my baseball hat, etc. All pretty minor, childish things that absolutely fit who she was. The house sold about 6 weeks later. There was a bit of petty drama with Melissa, but it largely stemmed from her just not understanding simple things. About a couple years after the relationship ended once and for all, I heard through the grapevine that Melissa had started dating the bassist from my old band. We'll call him Mike. He and I weren't close, so 0 FCKS were given. Melissa and Mike got engaged about a year ago. I guess he proposed over Christmas. Thing is, I've known Mike for probably 10 years. I also know his ex, who he dated for 7 years or so. She works for the home builder of the house my wife and I bought. We'll call her Jen. After Mike and Melissa got engaged, I texted Jen saying something like, "I bet we're not getting invited to the wedding, hey?" She then told me a story. Her and Mike still went for coffee every so often, and he had just unloaded on Jen with a recent event. A week after Mike proposed to Melissa, and she said yes, Mike had to go out of town for work. So to keep Melissa company, some of Mike's friends took Melissa to the local bar, and when I say Mike's friends, I mean the wives of his friends. Well, as the story goes, Melissa got really drunk and disappeared with some random guy for about an hour. The wives were calling her phone, looking all over, calling Mike, etc. Turns out, Melissa had gone and F'd that random dude in his truck out in the parking lot. They're still engaged. I guess some people will always be pieces of shit. Regarding the first boyfriend in the story that I inadvertently was the other guy of, I've come close to reaching out to him and telling him how bad I feel. But as far as I can tell, he's in a good place and I don't want to bring up bad memories. Plus I think in doing that, it would be more for me than him. Here is the second story. First, I am absolutely not looking to get back together with this girl. All that's left is bitter resentment, grief and vitriol hatred. What I'm wondering is if it's possible to truly love somebody you've cheated on, because that is how she has acted since cheating. She cheated on me the day after my 21st birthday, cheated on me again all after she would kiss me asleep and go out with her friend. She always told me how much she loved me. One time I got suspicious that she may have been cheating and she feigned the most skillful gasp of innocence, acting upset that I would ever ask. I broke up with her when I found she was abusing cocaine again. That night she wept her soul out, muttering, We have to be together and don't leave me, I need you." That night she tried to overdose and came very near to death before I got her to the ER. The next morning in the hospital she asked if we could still kiss, still have sex after the breakup. I politely said no, unknowing of her infidelity and sympathetic to her mental state. After we broke up she wrote me letters that she never would forget me and always wanted to be friends with me and my family. I told her roughly the same. This was before a week passed. My suspicions were alarmed that she and her emotional support friend who also has bipolar were dating. I tried to call her, text her, no answers, so I went over there. She told me meanly and remorselessly that she had been effing him for 2 months we were together. She told me cruelly that he had made her finish, she always said she couldn't. I was castrated and in shock, she stole my manhood right there. She said when her mom died she just didn't care anymore and that I should have let her die. Our sex life had declined towards the end, but I continually offered sex. I worked 2 jobs on top of full-time university, so I would be exhausted each night. She nevertheless said she was on her period every time as she was highly irregular. I know she is in a clear manic phase of bipolar, but I will hate her for the rest of my life. Does some part of her love me, or is there a part of her that hates me? Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for any future cheating stories.